Now we're going to do another check-in. We've been checking in every once in a while on women's AFCON. It's a huge summer of soccer between Euros, women's AFCON, and of course, Copa America Femenina. So we're going to go ahead and do our check-in. Unfortunately, you hate to see it. You do not want to start off your check-in on the tournament with this kind of energy, but we're going to go ahead and do it because if players are compelled and moved to the point where they feel like they need to go ahead and speak out about certain conditions taking place within the tournament, we're going to have to try to talk about that a little bit. And specifically, Brazil's players have come out and spoken out against CONMEBOL and over the conditions in the warm-up areas during the Copa America. Brazilian players, including six-time FIFA Player of the Year, Marta, have criticized CONMEBOL and the organizers of the Copa America tournament in Ecuador for requiring teams to warm up in a confined indoor area rather than on the actual pitch. And according to the tournament regulations, the measure was implemented to prevent damage to the pitch, which hosts 2 matches a day during the group stage. And I just sort of feel like deja vu, and I hate that kind of feeling. But Lori, I actually think I want to go to you on this first because you, in your experiences with the women's national team, you're no strangers to having to find yourselves being the one to speak out on things, and I couldn't help but notice that this is a circumstance that affects multiple teams in this particular tournament, but Brazilian players are the ones who had kind of taken it upon themselves to sort of be that vocal piece. And sometimes that's how it comes to light and that's how it comes to fruition. Yeah. The quote unquote favorite or the quote unquote powerhouse of the region finds themselves speaking out against these things. And I just was curious if you can talk a little bit about just like how bad does it have to be to where you're like, hold on a second here, pump the brakes, and 2, what's it like sort of finding yourself in that position in the middle of a tournament, kind of speaking out on stuff like this?
Yeah. Well, to the second part of that, it's emotional, right? It is emotional because you're fighting this one battle off the field while trying to perform on the field. That gives you even more leverage to be able to speak out. But I think, if you're going to speak about Brazil, also you can never not speak about Marta and how important she's been to this game, and not just what she's done on the field in terms of revolutionizing the game and the impact she's had, but off the field as well. I mean, this isn't the first time we've seen Marta do this in terms of like galvanizing people to be like, okay, this is the standard we should be, but then also doing it in a thoughtful way and making it known that this isn't good enough. And it's not surprising. I was curious about this because we're starting to dive into coverage of Copa America, and I'm going to be doing some games next week, so my prep will start. Sure. But I was like, when you have all these tournaments happening simultaneously, obviously we're all fans of the game, players included. So you're watching these tournaments and what Switzerland has done as a team, the tournament they put on, the quality that we're seeing in terms of the fans arriving, how the players are being treated. Of course, that is all going to be heightened, and then now is the time to speak out if this is the standard that's being put on in Copa America. So, listen, it's enough is enough because it's at this point in time it's boring. It's really such a boring conversation because it's not good enough, and it's like step up, let's go, and also it is where we are. So I just you have to give credit to this Brazilian team because it's not easy to be trying to perform and have this fight at the same time. But it is also the time that's needed when there's so much visibility, there's so many eyes on this. You have these other tournaments that people are watching and seeing that quality in the standard, and then also seeing this. But yeah, I mean, it's just like I'm getting I can feel my body getting fired up right now. It's again, the best way to put it too, it's so infuriating and it's also just boring. Let's move on, increase the standards. Let's go, because this is not good enough for the players. It's just not good enough at this point in time. And I feel for them.
Let me, Cupo, can I jump up on my soapbox? Because I think there's probably a call to action here. CONMEBOL. That's not protecting the turf, but you have exposed a double standard. Men's teams have never historically been asked to prepare like that, ever, anywhere. They're given space, access, professional conditions because that's what's expected because they're professional. So are the women.
Cupo.
This isn't just the tournament organizers. I think that at this point, we have enough leverage if we look to the event sponsors like Visa, Adidas, Gatorade, Coca-Cola, MasterCard, Nike. If your logo is on the broadcast, if it's on the bibs, if it's on a backdrop, if you're mentioned, if you're on a kit, you're part of this ecosystem. You can also hold these people responsible and make sure that they demand equal conditions before you get the next sponsorship, or the sponsorship's dead. If you make access to facilities a requirement, not a pretty please, can we, which it should be, and then stand up for the athletes that you support all in. This also goes for the federations. You need to do better. These are professional athletes, period. They shouldn't be arguing before a match or having any distractions whatsoever, because if you're the same people that argue to grow the game, then help to grow the game.
Well, it's
please always get on your soapbox. Please always.
Yeah,
this got me so heated up. I've been saving that. Like, when I see you,
it's deeply frustrating because they don't, like, things like this show that they don't advocate or argue for women's competitions or the women's game. And taking a step further there, Cupo, just sharing your soapbox, like, I need to see like some penalties or some fines. Like, I need to see something come out of this.
Do not appoint matches, right? Don't appoint matches to facilities that are incapable of hosting.
Yeah.
If Ecuador was given the opportunity to host this tournament, that's going to come with a certain amount of sponsorship and responsibility and extra funds to put those things on. And you got to get, like, I got to see something. I got to see a fine, a penalty, something moving forward. It's not enough. And it's terrible that it once again is falling on players at this point, arguably the favorite of the tournament, to find themselves speaking out. So not only are these players in competition, literally in this moment in time, to try to go out and win a tournament, they are finding it on themselves once again to have to advocate for bare minimums standards in the middle of this tournament in which they are competing. So it is deeply frustrating. And to your earlier point, Lori, it is stale. It is so stale. I'm tired of seeing us come on here and have to like rage out a little bit. And it's just like, you like us like this? Like, come on now. We'd rather be just like slamming a cold one and talking about the game. But it's like, that's just not always the possibility in the women's game. It's like, oh, hold on a second. Hold this for me while I go and like fight another fight real quick.
Yeah.
But happy to do it.
That, like, if it weren't a Brazil, right? If it weren't a Brazil who sort of flashed the light on this, I still think, again, standing solo, Bolivia would have just been swept under the rug. And like, that's damning also. So there's so many layers of just lack of justification for anything that's transpired. You're right. It's boring. It's boring.
I just need FIFA to pay attention. Just pay attention to what's happening in Copa America Femenina. You just gave Brazil the World Cup in 2027. And I'm sorry, if the Club World Cup was supposed to be some sort of a trial run for the Men's World Cup in 2026, I don't know how you're looking at a Copa America Femenina in South America and not raising some questions or eyebrows or red flags with a Women's World Cup on the horizon in 2027. This cannot be happening in the 2027 World Cup. Hopefully it does not. And hopefully we get to see some sort of temporary shifts within this Copa America Femenina, because again, it's one of these tournaments that we're keeping an eye on during the summer of soccer, alongside Euros, alongside women's AFCON. You know, it's got a ton of South American teams in there. Folks are obviously going to keep their eyes on Brazil, Colombia. They may or may not rival. I think they've got some work to do. They ended up in a draw, so we'll see who comes out to kind of maybe rival Brazil in this one moving forward. And it's just, again, it's just deeply frustrating trying to see those things, and you hate to maybe connect those dots as I am. Maybe some people might be like, Sandra, you're reaching, like, it's the World Cup, it's in 27, they got time. Surely it's not going to be like this in Brazil. But you know what, when this keeps happening and it gets as stale as it does, we're going to keep mentioning, like, pay attention for a little bit. And it's like you're asking Marta, one of the greats of all time, the GOAT, your favorite player's favorite player, Marta, is being asked about this stuff in the same breath of like, hey, what are your plans in 2027? And she's like, I don't really know, man, because like we're training in a boiler room in Copa America. She's over here like, I don't know, dude, like I might want to try to be a mom, right? This is something else that she's also spoken on as well. At least this is all part of Marta's legacy. It's like, is she or is she not really retired, right? Like she said that she's going to always be there for Brazil as long as she's happy and healthy and they need her. And but hearing her speak recently, again, not only in a form of activism for her team, but also just kind of expressing like her desire for motherhood as well, like in comments that she made to blow Brazil. So I just am like, God, man, like Marta's like really keeping an eye on things in action and also an eye ahead. I mean, if this is it for Marta in Copa America, this is just another one of those things that adds to her legacy, I think, doesn't it, Cupo?
Yeah, I mean, Marta is just this talismanic figure. Like she's bigger than anything else. Like I'm sorry to say that, but like there's this totemic figure that's Marta that everybody, whether Brazilian or not, will run through a wall for. And then there's Marta the player, who also like the intangibles of her leadership qualities on pitch, the way that she gets fired up, the way that she can garner the team ambition in a single whole human body is insane. I think that we're seeing like a really strong Brazilian side, but we haven't seen one without Marta yet. And I feel like I have a lot of trepidation about that because, again, there's what she does as a player, drawing fouls in key areas and just full scoring, getting into positions. And then there's also just her being there. I think that the aura points are like off the chart. And so it's like, what do you do without her? How do you replace that? I don't, obviously we've had this conversation with other players in like the US program, but I feel like for Brazil, barring any other, like we've been spoiled for riches in terms of retirees in the US program. And you look at Brazil and it's like, well, I think that their all-time worldie player, like that's her. She's still playing.
Yeah.
And it's like we haven't seen that departure yet. I think it's going to be a big challenge for them, but if anything, I think they'll always play for her, right? And that's what I mean by like she kind of eclipses the whole game all in.
Yeah, it is interesting.
We'll see.
Yeah, I'll just say the last thing I'll say is she is the ultimate GOAT, right? For all of these reasons, her ability to lead on the field, to lead off the field, and is annoying and frustrating, all the words that we've used already in this fight. One of the things I think that's most important is that you hope, because of how talented this Brazilian team is, they are learning in these moments, right? She is guiding them, and from there, other types of leaders are rising up to be that voice when she does ultimately step down. And maybe that's what's needed, is once she does leave, you really start to see, oh, there is somebody else that we didn't know that can like grab this team and really galvanize them in a lot of ways too. And hopefully, goodness gracious, that a lot of these fights will be lessened because the standards will be met and even exceeded. But at the same time, they're ready to take those reins because of the work that Marta has done in terms of leading the team. So
no, that's a really good point, Lori. One that I'm not sure if I thought of really since you mentioned it right now. I just am kind of like, you know what, there's a lot of ways to sort of be an icon of the game, right? And one of those things is to sort of lead your teammates in how to advocate for themselves a little bit, because if you're not around, if you're not that face, like what's that going to look like once you're gone? And I think maybe we see a little bit of this. Marta was not the only one to speak out on this. Like Caroline took to her own social media and was speaking about these things. Ari Borges was someone who took to a lot of statements alongside Marta. And so we were seeing maybe a little bit of that legendary status and Marta kind of seeping into some of the teammates. But as far as what it means for them in the tournament moving forward, we'll see. They're sitting on top of Group B at the moment with 6 points, and believe it or not, hosts Ecuador on top of Group A at this moment with 4 points. So